Welcome back to your weekly installment of the Reserve List Top 10. These are the hottest selling cards on the Reserve List this week, October 24th to the 31st of 2025. And just which Reserve List cards are people buying? Well, that's why you're here, so stay tuned, let's get started. I am MTG Moxman, and welcome back to the weekly installment of the Reserve List Top 10. A reminder, if you're new to the channel, if you've never been here before, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel because I put out new content every single day. If you're shopping for any of these amazing cards you see and you're on TCG Player, use my affiliate link that is in the description of this video. Now, let's start out at the number 10 card, and it's from Antiquities. We have Mishra's Workshop making an appearance in the top 10. Now, this card was here once in 2024, and it's never been back since, but 24 sales is $73,000. Let's not forget that this thing, it gets played in Commander. With an average price of $3,079.99 for a near mint copy, you would not be surprised to hear that this card is not selling near mint. These are heavily played and moderately played copies, even 2 damaged copies sold. But the reason they're selling is they are down on their price, they're very expensive and hard to come by, and there's only so many of these wonderful pieces of iconic Magic history left in the world. And when players get an opportunity to buy this card, they don't pass it up. But the real kicker? Somebody bought 6 in a single go. So what's going on? Let's dive into our next card, and we are going to take a look at Bayou, and that's from Revised. It takes the number 9 position with 44 sales this week. That's $18,960.48. Many lightly played and moderately played copies of this card sold in the market this week. You can see the average price is up to $430.92. It hasn't reached the $700 level that we saw back in 2021, nor am I expecting it to. It's at a very good price point. Players recognize the value. It's just not liquid enough right now, and that's saying a lot. Now, when we're looking at cards like these ones, you have to remember that the dual lands are the cream of the crop. They are the best of the best. They are the entry point into Reserve List collecting and investing. They are the beast that you want to get the most of. You want to get a good chunk of meat. You want to get at least 10 of these things, one of each type, to start your Commander deck out right. Amazing. Yes, they cost a lot of money, but they are the dream. They are the envy. They're where you want to be. Now, for our next card, we are going into Jester's Mask. Now, this is not the first time this card's been on the list. Number 8 with 51 sales, or $247.86. But guess what? A lot of moderately played copies sold. These are not near mint. Near mint is less than $5 at $4.86 per copy. But the copies selling are in the $2 to $3 range. Now, there's a lot of destructive value attached to this card that Commander players need to be aware of. If you can make this thing come into play untapped, you're going to mess things up. Yeah, it's a 5 casting cost. It comes into play tapped, but there's ways of working around that. Sacrifice the Jester's Mask to look through target opponent's hand and library. Give that player a new hand of as many cards as he or she had before, and then reshuffle the remaining cards. Guys, this can just be a devastating effect to anyone's deck, and when used with Jester Cap, it can basically break Commander decks. Keep it in mind. Now, for our next card, it is Grim Monolith from Urza's Legacy. Don't forget, the first time foiling was ever introduced, here's where we're at. 56 sales this week, or $22,482.88 of total sales volume. Now, as we're talking about this 56 sales, there was 18 copies of the World Championship Edition that also sold. They go for like $40. The average price of this card is at $401.48. The market is at $383.77, and most of the prices are actually falling into that range. Players looking for this card know they're looking for a card that's never getting reprinted, has long-term value, and it has a market that is always accepting. Again, not as liquid as some cards you'd like to be, but a lot of cash and trade can be worked out. So this one is a little more valuable than people realize in the long term. So keep these kinds of cards in your, in your sphere of influence. Think about it. Materialize it and say, is this a card I have to have, or can I just pass on it and move on to the next? Now, for our next card, we got Thawing Glaciers. This is not the number 1 card this week, and you can see here it's averaging $19.99. It has an uptick in its price, 60 sales or $1,199.40. Most are lightly played copies moving in the market with some moderately played. There's also a few of the special promo edition one, but they are not included in today's sale, okay? Those are like 60 something bucks each. It is not included in today's count of the numbers, but it's always good to keep in mind that some of those things are selling. They're at a much more expensive price point, but they're much more rare. Keep that in mind. Now, when we're looking at Thawing Glaciers, again, so many landfall decks are being played right now, and when you look at reserve list cards like this, they can actually look a little bit outmoded until you realize that there are so many ways for these things to come into play untapped, be used multiple times in a turn to just get tons of mana pumped onto the battlefield, which can make your landfall deck trigger time and time again in a single turn. Love this card, love the ideas behind it, and a lot of players don't even know this card exists. Let's go ahead and take a look at our next card from Alliances, and that is Lake of the Dead. Now, this card has an average price of $92. It sold 73 copies this week. That is $6,716 of total sales action in the market. Most of the copies moving are lightly played and moderately played. I didn't see any heavily played or damaged copies moving, so this is roughly where we're at this week. Let's not forget that the high for this card has been $300. It's still 2/3 off what it used to be. That's a great price point for the card. It has some of the most iconic artwork in the history of Magic the Gathering. It was the creepiest of the creep to see this thing enter the battlefield. Now, of course, this gets played in a whole bunch of Tron decks. Eldrazi love this stuff along with Scorched Runes, which is not on the list today. There is crazy stuff going on in the market right now. Reserve list sales have really been pumping up big, and we'll talk about that more at the end of the video. So get ready for that conversation. It's going to come when we get past the number one card. Now, the Lake of the Dead, don't forget, there's lots of copies out there, but you know, there's only so many you can think about in your area. Now, for our next card, we're looking at Copy Artifact from Revised. It takes the number 4 position with 86 sales this week. It really hit the market big. $5,787.80 of total sales action. Most copies moving were, of course, moderately and lightly played. The average price is $67.30. The low price is $45. The market is $63. A lot of people were finding copies in the $40 range. Keep that in mind, guys. Just because you see the averages, the highs, and the lows, it all depends on where the condition of your card is at when you're selling it. And a lot of players were buying it, but they were looking for the moderate to heavily played copies. This is an amazing piece of Magic history, but it's also a highly playable, highly valuable card when you're playing any format that allows this card to be used. It is something you should own more than one of if you can, so you can just stop exchanging it between decks. The good news is there's lots of copies out there from the various forms of this thing being reprinted, and there's a price point for everyone. This card won't stay this high again. It will sink down at some point. Now for our next card, Mox Diamond. This is the 4th week in a row this card has been on the list. Number 3 this week with 87 sales, just beating out the Copy Artifact. Now, that's $67,000 of total sales action. The copies moving in the market are almost exclusively lightly played. And that's because the market here, guys, is now in trouble. It cannot keep pace with the amount of people looking for the card and willing to buy it. Because of that, we are starting to see a shortage of these being available in the open market. From local LGSs to TCG player to card market, there's only so many of these things out there, and it's all from Stronghold, a really old set. It is basically an auto-include in so many commander decks that when players get a chance, they will trade, buy their way up. Whatever works out, they want a copy of this card, at least one. And that's where we're at for a card like this. I don't know what the market's going to do in the next week, but we are going to talk about it, guys. It is insane to see this 4 weeks in a row. Now, for our next card, we're diving over to Hall of Gemstone. Kind of a surprise this week with an average price of $13.50. This one comes in with 112 sales. Now, that makes it the number 2 card, so you know the number 1 card's even higher than that. Now, $1,512 is actually a very reasonable price point for this card. It's not overly expensive from Mirage, considering how old it is. It has amazing artwork, by the way. It's been as high as $50. So this one hasn't retraced as far as many of the other cards from the reserve list because it does have a usage, and a lot of players do like to play this card. So let's take a closer look here. Now, when we're looking at the Hall of Gemstones, yeah, you gotta be some dedicated green. 2 green, 1 other, amazing artwork. Enchant World. During each player's upkeep, that player chooses a color. Until end of turn, each mana-producing land produces mana of the chosen color instead of its normal color. So, you can basically stop your opponents from doing any crazy stuff, which is awesome on your turn, and it's all because of the Hall of Gemstones. This is an amazing card, and yes, I know a lot of Commander players have it. Now, let's dive over to the number 1 card this week. It's Chronotog. That's right. Average price is up to $903. Market's $527. This thing had 342 sales, or $3,088.26 of total sales action. The market didn't care. It bought near mint, lightly played, moderately played, heavily played. Okay, it bought everything it could. Some as low as $2, some as high as $8, $9. Now, the Chronotog is an interesting card in the fact that I've never used it. I've never even looked at it, but there's a lot going on. The Chronotog is a 2 casting cost, 1 blue and 1 other. Now, skip your next turn. Chronotog gets +3/+3 until end of turn. Use this ability only once per turn. A lot of people use this with the 1 ring to get protection from everything. And it says you can do it, you can use it once per turn. But in a commander game, there's a lot of other opponents. It's kind of funny, guys. Just keep this card in mind, because there's a lot of people out there, or one particular person, buying hundreds of copies. Now let's actually talk about what happened in the market. This was your top 10. This is 4 weeks in a row the reserve list has shown robust sales. Sales far higher and outside the norm of what we've seen for a very long time. Now, we haven't seen a lot of power cards hit the market in high number, but the fact we're seeing a whole bunch of older cards from Antiquities, cards like Mishra's Workshop, do not normally make the list. Now, we didn't see the Island of Whack Whack. We didn't see a whole bunch of Elephant Graveyards on the list. Arabian Nights has settled down a bit, although it did have a few copies of Guardian Beast Cell. Now, seeing some of these lower-end reserve list cards, that can mean a lot of things. Players speculating, hoping for the future, banking away some cards, just making sure they've got a little bit of everything in their cash, just in case something comes up big, they can sell back into the market. That's not unusual. But the sheer volume of cards of a higher price point like Mox Diamond are very surprising. Fast Bond still continues to sell a number of copies. Soldevi Excavations, the card of the channel, it still sold almost 20 copies. We got to 19. It's kind of insane to see some of these cards move in the market. Now, if we ever see a big run on the reserve list, it's going to trigger all kinds of stuff, but we're a far cry from that. Right now, it's just a very interesting and much healthier, stronger market than we've seen in a very long time. Now, if we see more dual lands, if we see a real spike in some more high-end cards beyond Mox Diamond, there'll be a lot bigger conversation going on. But if we start hitting hundreds of sales a week in individual cards across the board, you're going to notice a lot more conversation and chatter across the internet pertaining to the reserve list. And Wizards of the Coast, again, will start paying attention. I want to thank you guys for hanging out today. Thanks for stopping by the channel. You know what? It was a great week for the reserve list. It did very well. Thanks again for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow with another video. Hey guys, thanks for hanging out today and being part of my channel by enjoying a video that I've created. But that creation, that building of this video was not made possible without the help of my patrons and YouTube membership members and regular viewers like you. But for this point, at this part, you see all these names? They are the patrons of the channel. Welcome back to the Ramble Jim. I got cut off at the end of my own credits. I ran out of time. Can you believe that? It's too late. I can't go back. But at the same time, we're here at the Ramble Jim, but we're here at the end. Guys, that was some very impressive reserve list sales again. Again. It is very interesting when you start seeing reserve list sales spread out like this, different cards being hit at higher price points. How about if I told you that they weren't the only cards selling? You still have dozens of reserve list cards, dual lands, selling 8-9 copies. Nothing unusual really about that within a 1 week period nowadays. But at the same time, all it takes is somebody, some catalyst, something to go wrong to make that reserve list just pop. I don't know what it would be, but I'm glad that I've been collecting reserve list cards long enough that there's nothing I'm really missing out on other than maybe like the Bazaar Baghdad and a Diamond Valley. I need those cards still, but other than that, I'm feeling pretty comfortable. My position is good. You know what? I hope you guys have been listening out there. I hope you've been enjoying the ride. Because we're far from being done. This is an awesome way to enjoy a hobby and talk about it every day. Thanks again for being part of the channel. Now get out of here. Go do something. Go mow the lawn. Because that's what I'm going to do.